Welcome back to our FastBreak podcast. This is our first true episode here today. Today we're going to be going over some bracketology. We'll talk about some of the hottest teams in the land, including Michigan State, who had a crazy game last night against number 16 Maryland. Nebraska, right on the bubble once again this week. We went over it last week, but they're struggling to get in the tournament. Florida, who we'll talk about. They had a rough game last night against Georgia, or 2 nights ago against Georgia, but they're looking to bounce back. We'll go over Auburn, number one team again. We'll go over our players of the week, and then we have some NBA hot takes on Luka Doncic's return against the Mavericks in LA. Harry, jump into some bracketology.
So, last four in, it's kind of been the same teams we've been seeing on the last four in and first four out for the last couple weeks now. You got Nebraska, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Wake Forest. Nebraska, we'll talk about later, on the bubble once again. Oklahoma, last night had a really close game against Kentucky that they couldn't squeak out. Arkansas, who's shown they can, keep up with the best of best. And then Wake Forest, who has been constantly, just staying there.
Hunter
Salas. And first four out, like the past couple weeks, has been like North Carolina, Indiana, SMU, and Xavier. I don't know how SMU's even listed here, to be honest with you. They really haven't shown they can beat anybody, and yet they're still in the first four out.
I think Indiana's an interesting team to watch because, obviously their Coach Woodson, he's not coming back next year, so they're kind of just playing with what they got right now. And it might be a wreck next year, but they're rolling right now. They just beat Purdue at home by about 15, so
have a good big.
That's a big quad one win for them. See if they can sneak their way into maybe an 11 seed playing game or something like that.
Yeah.
And then next four out, you got Boise State, Georgia, who just got a huge win at home.
Last night.
I'm sure next week that'll bump them up. They might even be in the tournament next week. Beat Florida at home, and then George Mason, number one team in the A10. They're rolling right now. They're like 21-5. And then Villanova, who's kind of right on the line of the Big East tournament, being the top 5 seed, who gets the double bye, or the bottom 7 or bottom 6 that don't. So
you have 3 SEC teams on the bubble right now.
Yeah,
so.
and 13 already in the tournament.
Yeah.
So, that's just every week we talk about the SEC, but it is just crazy how good that conference is this year. And then going over to switching conferences a little bit on us, but Michigan State, they've been rolling, number 8 team in the country. Obviously, Tom Izzo's always going to have a good team, well coached. But he put in a freshman, Jace Richardson, into the starting lineup a couple weeks ago. And ever since, he's been balling. He had 21 points and 6 rebounds at number 12 Michigan last week on Friday, which was a huge win for them on the road to maybe see if they can get in the projected 1 seed.
Yeah.
It's going to be close.
Yeah, very close.
And then they beat Purdue at home, carried by Richardson again. And then last night they played at number 16 Maryland.
Maryland, sell job, I tell you. 3 seconds left. Chuck up a shot.
I think I watched that clip like 15 times.
Yeah. Come back down the court. He just chucks three-fourths court
and then
buzzer beater by Trey Holloman. But the reason I bring them up is because obviously they're really good right now, but I really think they could be a 1 seed.
They could, yeah. If they went out and win the Big Ten, I think you do put them there. And considering this Florida loss, who's been up there too, Florida gets pushed back. They most likely won't be a 1 seed unless they win out and win the Big Ten. Or not Big Ten, the SEC. And then, right now Michigan State is carving its own path.
And, they beat Purdue, so they have the tiebreaker over them. Those are the top 2 in the Big Ten, so we'll have to see.
And especially with Michigan not looking so hot against Nebraska.
I know, that was
Michigan scores 49 points and somehow still, just finds a way to win. I think that just shows Nebraska is not so good. You score 46 points, 26% from the field. Michigan only shot 30%, so barely better. Bryce Williams had 26 of the 46 points.
I think he started off the first 11 points or 13 points. Yeah. He had all 13.
And then he had 19 of the team's 22, going into halftime.
He's been balling. He's averaging 20 a game, and he had 26 against Michigan, so he had over half the team's points. And he's by far, he's one of the best players in the country, along with Kalkbrenner, which is kind of crazy to have two players in the same state,
Yeah.
both be on the Naismith Award finalist list.
Considering Nebraska really hasn't had anybody
Even close to
even
that
close
in
to that in the last 10 years.
Yeah. So, looking forward, how do you think Nebraska makes the tournament this year?
Started it off, I think you have to carve your own path. You have to win out. I mean, right now, I'd say they might be in that first 4 out category right now. But, even with that, you're in a tough conference. You need to win out. They have Minnesota. They're at Ohio State.
Versus Iowa.
And then they're at home against Iowa. If you win 3 out of 3 or 2 of those 3, I mean, I think they're going to be in because just based on it, they're going to be in the Big Ten. I mean, and to be honest, the Big Ten's up for grabs, really. I mean, Michigan State right now is definitely the favorite. But beyond that, I mean, you really could go any team because Purdue's lost their last 4 games. Michigan State has shown Michigan has shown, I mean, they went 30% from the field goal.
That's not going to win any games in March.
No,
so.
not at all. You're not going to be scoring less than 50 points and win a game in March.
Yeah, I think if Nebraska can, like you said, win 2 out of the 3 they're in, and then just based off what they do in the Big Ten tournament, as long as they don't lose first round to someone I don't even know, they lose to a terrible team first round, like Northwestern or somebody like that. I think they're in.
Yeah.
And then what do you think Nebraska looks like moving forward with Hoiberg and some of the other players?
I'll start out and then I'll move to Jace, but I think I mean, speaking of Nebraska, we live in Nebraska, but it's they spend so much money on football, and I've had this conversation with my brother, but if they use some of that money and spend it on basketball and try to spend it on some talent that they know that they can keep in the program for 2 to 3 years, I feel like that would change it a lot, because after that second year, players are going to start realizing that they are able, they can come to Nebraska, get a good amount of money, and still win, hopefully in March by then for Nebraska fans.
I think it's crazy to me that, I think Nebraska needs to start recruiting better in state. You lose a guy like Salas, he goes to Gonzaga, Wake Forest.
Loss.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we got to think Creighton lost out. He was a 5.
You're right.
He was a 5-star.
You're right, but when you have guys like Salas, Hepburn, St. Thomas,
Green,
Tanji, you have all these guys, especially around the Big Ten even.
You have Jason Green.
Green.
You had Justin Pan a few years ago.
You have all these guys that are coming from in-state, and they can't lock them up. I think that's one of their big problems.
I mean, this last year they did get Cooper Flagler.
Yeah.
I mean,
so but
you got something.
You play against John Tanji, you went to Omaha Central. He's at Wisconsin now. He drops 32 on you. That's a guy that you should have on your team that you let slip away, and that's why you're losing now.
Mm-hmm.
So Nebraska basketball's terribly bad right now, right?
Mm-hmm. They're mediocre, but historically terribly bad.
They're the worst Power 4 team of all time.
Yeah.
But right now, so like you said, they're spending all their money on football.
Yeah, and volleyball.
And volleyball. I mean, I'm not complaining.
Volleyball is obviously been good, but if we Nebraska were to spend more money on basketball, they would just go because if they're not, I think they mediocre right now. Wouldn't they just be a better basketball school?
I think they'd for sure have a tournament win by now.
I think 100% they'd have a tournament.
They spent all this money on football and just won the first bowl game in 20 years.
Yeah, I guess
10 years.
10 years. Oh,
so now flip over to the SEC. Auburn. We talk about them. I feel every week.
Well, yeah.
Janai Broom. They are the number 1 team in the country, but
14-2 quad 1 wins.
That's insane. 14 quad 1 wins is crazy.
The record's 17 right now with Kansas a couple years ago. They had the chance to break it, but I'm pretty sure that bridges crossed. I'm pretty sure max they can get right now is 16.
Left, I don't think.
I'm pretty sure the maximum they can get is 16 now. But if you're 16-2 in quad 1 games and probably the toughest conference of all time for a year,
yeah.
That's pretty good.
I think Auburn could lose that right now and still be a 1 seed. That's crazy to say. With 14 quad 1 wins, you're a 1 seed. 2
to 3 games left. I don't think a 25-5 team would unless they win the SEC, necessarily get the.
That's why I think Bama. That's why I think they're in the conversation because, they have 13 quad 1 wins and they're not going to be a 1 seed. That doesn't make any sense. if the committee says they based off quad 1 wins, then they should have their top 2 teams as quad 1 wins.
Yeah. I mean, that Crane game's really helping them too.
Yeah,
that's a quad 1 win.
I know.
So
We go into some players of the week. I have another SEC guy, Josh Hubbard from Mississippi State. He's averaging 20 points a game in 38 minutes, which is crazy. Every night in the SEC, only come out for 2 minutes per game. In the last 2 games, he's dropped 19 and 25, while shooting 87% on his career from the free throw line, which is pretty solid.
Yeah. And for my player of the week, I have Richie Saunders from BYU. Big 12. He's averaging 22.5 points per game on 75% shooting and 62.5% from the 3. Coming off 2 huge wins. Beat Kansas by 35. Go into Arizona on a very controversial call, but they beat them by 1. And then, I mean, BYU's rocking. I mean, they're in the tournament right now. So
yeah, they are. I mean, they came out of nowhere.
Yeah, winning the last 3 games they've had.
Jace?
I had Will Richard from Florida. Granted they lost to Georgia. Very unexpected loss. But he's averaging 13.2 points per game. But he dropped 30 points against Georgia, even with the loss. 5 rebounds and 3 assists. So I was just scrolling through, seeing 30 points.
Yeah,
that's really
on a
good.
loss too. So
yeah, that'll make you stop and look.
Mm-hmm.
But going to Florida, they are rolling. Everyone's like, "Oh, this is a free win." They're favored at Georgia, and they come out and lose. Well, they're down 20 and a half about.
Yeah.
And then they close it to 5. It wasn't a 5-point game, but without Will Richards' effort, they would have lost by 25. And did you see the thing after the game where Georgia, the storming the court?
They had to wait.
Yeah, they had to wait so they didn't get fined. Yeah.
Well, I was looking at stats, and it just by looking at stats, I didn't watch any of the game, but it looked like Georgia was just playing better, I guess.
I think they're just playing loose. They have nothing to lose. Georgia
more. I don't know, if I can't find the word, more fundamental, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, what? I'm not saying this is his name. Asa Newell, 9 rebounds, and Blue Kane, 6 rebounds.
Yeah.
And they had a bunch of 3-stat rebounds. Everyone had 3 rebounds at least on the team. So,
I mean, that's just, to be honest, that's just hard. I mean, thinking back on the season, I remember one of Creighton's games, Texas A&M, who's notorious for their grit and just getting offensive rebounds. I think they had 20 or something on Creighton.
Yeah.
So
and looking back, if Creighton wins that game,
they're pretty good.
Texas A&M up to top 10. So.
And then you gotta think about it, SEC. It's gonna be a dogfight every single night. Think about it. Kentucky goes into Oklahoma last night and wins by 1. I mean, this Kentucky team was ranked number 4 at one point this season. So, I think the SEC is very, very. It's gonna be a very tough conference to win if you're not one of the top 2 seeds.
So who's in that? Is Tennessee in SEC?
Yeah. Tennessee's SEC.
So where's Florida?
Florida's SEC.
Okay, so well, I have here they played on the February 1st and Tennessee won, but I seen Tennessee's below them. But I don't know because Tennessee lost to Kentucky twice, but then they beat Florida.
Yeah,
so,
I don't. We obviously made this question, but now it looks like a great question, Florida being ranked higher than Tennessee because
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
I mean, after the Georgia game, you could argue that Tennessee should be higher based off. So I don't know. We'll see. They both play Alabama first week of March.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about a tough schedule for Bama.
I mean, I think Florida should. I think Florida has shown they're probably a much better team than Tennessee is. I think at its peak, whatever team. Okay, if you get the best of Florida team and you get the best Tennessee team, I think the best Florida team wins. Just based solely off Florida can really do it all. They can shoot the 3 ball, they can score in the paint. They have one of the best bigs in college basketball. I mean, I think it'll be very tough. I think right now the top 3 in the SEC, my favorites to win it right now are Auburn, Florida, and Alabama. I mean, those are the top 3 teams.
Yeah, I mean,
but I feel like they're just such on a bigger level than this Tennessee team or this Texas A&M team. So.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a lot about Houston.
Yeah, they're in the Big 12, but
Are they? I just haven't heard a lot about them.
They're good. I think they might be my team this year to win it.
Really?
Yeah.
They just are so defensively like sound and they're so physical and like
they're one of those teams just like that Nebraska Michigan game that'll
would
hold you to
not
less
want-
than 50 points.
You do not want to play them.
That team will hold you
try
to
hard.
less than
Yeah,
50
it's
points.
just and then kind of switching lanes. We stay in Texas with the Mavericks.
The Mavericks.
Oh, yeah.
Houston,
Oh, we're in LA. But yeah.
You go. Luka traded to the Lakers. Obviously, shocking trade. First game
Blockbuster.
back against the Mavericks. The Lakers win by 8, and kind of a low-scoring NBA game.
Very, very low scoring.
But Luka has a triple-double. 19 points, 15 rebounds, 12 assists. Played in LA, but I don't know if Luka's better off with the Lakers. I feel like with LeBron already there, I feel like they're both too ball dominant that they're gonna kind of hurt each other's stats, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you were seeing. I watched that game. Luka just pulling up from like mid, like half court almost, and then Austin Reeves does like the same thing too. And then you got LeBron doing it too.
Know, yeah.
So I don't know because I really like Luka and Kyrie. I feel like they fit good together. So
I think Luka and the Mavs. I feel like him and Kyrie were very good because Kyrie is a facilitator.
Yeah.
And he knows, like, okay, Luka can shoot this ball, and just sometimes it's better off just giving the ball to Luka. But, I mean, like, if I'm the Lakers, I'm kind of worried because they don't have a big man.
Yeah.
If they go against, like, this Nikola Jokic or something.
And they did, and he had triple-double.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't, like, guard him because, I mean, Jackson Hayes is your starting center.
LeBron was guarding Nikola Jokic.
I mean,
that's not going to work.
That's not going to work. Jokic just pulling it behind his head and just hitting that. So,
But, so that will wrap up our first episode. I'm sure next week we'll be back talking about Auburn and the SEC.
I'm sure about it.
But tune back in next week, and thanks for listening. One viewer. Was it Raz?
No, it was me.